Polarium refused to pay me some hush money, so let's talk about some raid secrets. Hello everyone, Bront, CatHerder here. We're having some fun talking Raid Shadow Legends, and we are here to talk about a few secrets for Raid. I guess they're not necessarily secrets, but they are things that I regularly encounter that people don't know that you can do in Raid. Maybe they don't know how to do them in Raid, or maybe they're just something that people get overlooked. So we're going to take a look at some of these cool features. I've got 3 of them lined up. I'm going to go in depth with about how to use them, what you can do with them, how to break them down, and overall, we'll talk about some cool stuff in Raid that maybe you didn't know, or maybe you did. But one of the coolest things that I don't think a lot of people are aware of, there is a link right below me that you can use to start a brand new Raid Shadow Legends account. Maybe you've been playing for a while and want to try the new player experience again. Maybe you're looking to challenge yourself. Maybe you've got some friends that you'd like to get into Raid. Well, use my link down below, and right away, once you get through the tutorial, you will get a Zargala who will give you a lot of extra damage, give you decreased defense, and honestly, she is a very good nuker for a lot of the end game Centranos levels, as well as for the early and mid game. She will help carry as far as a damage dealer, a debuffer, gives you a 4-space champion, as well as just generally being a very good champion to use overall. And then at level 15, you will get yourself an Ugo. Ugo is great. She gives you more decreased defense. She gives you block buffs. She's great in Hydra. She's great everywhere. She has a great heal. She is one of the best epics in the game. Runs from the early game to the end game. I love the Ugos on every account I have ever used. She is a great champion. And all you need to do, use the link down below, download the game on a device you haven't played the game on before, or if you're playing on PC, all you need to do is log out of Polarium Play, run the download, and either start up Raid on a brand new device if you're using Android or iOS, or if you're using the PC, start it up, let it know that you would like to use the new login information that you did. You'll need a new email address to sign up for it. And boom, right after the tutorial's done, you should get yourself a Zargala. She should be right up here in this inbox. And you too can start your raid journey or start another raid journey. It helps support me. It helps support the channel. I really appreciate it. So, that first big secret we were talking about, I'll bet you didn't know there was a shop where you can spend money. See? You can spend money and get cool things in the game, and I bet you've never seen that or any of the No, we're not going to talk about that. Let's talk about some real secrets. So one of the biggest things that's a big problem for Raid is managing all your gear. Now, early game, you don't have a ton of gear. Some of the gear is pretty easy to figure out. As you get later and later in the game, it becomes harder and harder to keep your account clean. As you can see here, I have almost no space, and I've done a cleanse fairly recently on my endgame account. But there's all kinds of cool things that you can do to deal with your gear, to manage it, to sort it, that I don't think everyone is familiar with. Now, first of all, there is the filter, and the filter, people are generally aware of some of this stuff. These make sense. So you can select only weapons or weapons and shields. So basically, if these are lit up, they're selecting only those particular pieces of gear. And if none of them are lit up, you're selecting everything. Pretty self-explanatory. What a lot of people seem to miss is they have the fitting room right here. The fitting room allows you to take pieces and throw them on a champion with this little try on button here. And I can see in real time what that is going to do to change the stats of this champion. And it actually does include the set stuff as well. So if I put this piece on here, I'm going to gain 14 speed. Now this only has 12 speed, but if you'll notice, this is actually a speed piece. So speed on speed plus the speed bonus gives me all the extra stats. So this right here gives me the actual stats for what I would be doing when I'm changing this champion. Makes it very, very easy to build a champion so that you can test out builds without actually having to put the gear on. Saves you a ton of silver. Plus it also means that you can decide, hey, I don't want this piece anymore. I'm going to take this off. Or I could certainly sort and figure out what other stuff is going to be on some of these champions. Don't like what you're dealing with and just want to remove it and start over? Just click that fitting room button. You're out of the fitting room again. While you're in the fitting room, you can also use this preset manager. You don't have to use it in the fitting room, but you can. So I can go to the global presets, for example, and see what she might look like with my fastest gear on here. Now these actually are both available both on the artifacts and on the accessory stage. Now I don't have a lot of accessory presets here, and these are not going to work because obviously you have affinity issues as well. Not affinity issues. You have faction issues preventing you from using some of this gear, but they're still available and you can still use them. You can do the, again, you can also just do the fittings here. So I can take a look and see what happens if I throw this on here, and I can see how some of these changes affect my champion. I can see overall what I'm going to do, what kind of stats I'm going to get. So if I'm building for specific stat sets between the preset manager and the fitting room, I can manage my gear pretty effectively without spending a ton of silver until I'm absolutely ready to go. Or even better yet, maybe I'll save it up, get a bunch of these presets ready to go, and then simply go through and use one of my 1 hour or 3 hour free gear refits. Or like right now, there's a free regear event, and do all my actual regearing during those events. Now, other things that are somewhat obvious but are certainly nice to know. You do have a just new filter, so you can see the stuff that you have that might actually be new. So this can help you sort through just the new stuff. So if you actually only want to deal with some of the new stuff you got in, keep things kind of clean without, going through a full gear cleanse, well, this is a great way to do it. So I can see I only have 4 things in the new. I haven't been farming a lot of gear lately. So I can take a look at this and see, okay, well, this is flat defense. I might want to sell that, or in the feral case, I'm probably going to chaos ore it first, and then if it's still flat, then I might sell it. Overall, I can go through these pieces and take a look and see if they're worthwhile. This is also good for if I'm leveling up gear. I can level up the new stuff first, because that's the stuff oftentimes I need to level up to see whether or not I want to keep it in the first place. You can also put on equipped. Now, equipped and just new are kind of exclusive, but that's because once you've equipped something, it's no longer just new to your account. So now that I go into equipped, I can now see every piece of gear that is equipped. Now that's an awful lot of gear. As you can see, that's 3,200 pieces of gear I have on my account. That's an awful lot, but that's where some of these other filters come in. You've got the rank filter here, so I can see if I have any 1-star gear, 3-star gear. I've got a single 4-star pair of boots on a champion. Kind of funny. Probably don't really care. I can certainly also see if I've got anything like, okay, I've got a couple of pieces of common or even uncommon gear here. I've got a lot more rare. I can filter these things. They can be useful for the gear cleanse. They can also be useful for building champions. Say, for example, if you're building a champion that you absolutely want to make sure that they're going as fast as possible, well, maybe you're only going to be looking for 6-star speed boots with speed. So there we go. I've got that filter going. So use these filters to your advantage. They're very, very good. You've got the primary stats and secondary stats here. You don't have to filter out by the particular piece of gear in some cases, but you certainly can. If I turn off these boots filters here, if I'm still on speed, boots are the only ones that can hit speed. If I'm looking for things that also might be crit damage, well, I'm going to get crit damage gloves as well. So I can kind of look through here for both of these things as well. But I generally find the more narrow you can make your search, the better. And of course, then I can certainly look for substats, like let's take a look at these with crit rate. Well, now we're down to not a lot of them that I have on my account that have crit rate, either speed boots or crit damage gloves. Makes it very easy to kind of filter through and sort and deal with which champions are going to be using which pieces of gear. But there's even more cool things you can do, both to cleanse and to just sort through this gear. Now you'll notice, for example, I have no way to actually turn off whether or not I have a speed substat or I don't have a speed substat. So there's no way for me to say, show me all the gear that doesn't have speed substat. So for example, let's just take, well, we'll go simple. Let's take a look at all my weapons. Let's take a look at all my 6-star weapons. I don't need equipped right now. And I want to see what doesn't have speed. Well, what I can do is I can go to priority stats and sort by speed, and then I start from the bottom up. So now I know my slowest weapon in the speed set. This is my slowest weapon in the crit damage set. And for example, if I was really religious about speed, I might start trimming some of these down, knowing that I need speed and I don't need them anymore. Other examples though might be, for example, maybe I want to sort by crit rate instead. So crit rate would be only good for some of the pieces, but honestly, having high crit rate, well, I can look at my crit damage stuff and see what doesn't have a lot of crit rate. Well, this doesn't have a lot of crit rate, but it's got triple hit and accuracy and some speed, so that could be redeemable. This one is okay because it's got some good other stats, but not great. I could see myself selling this if I'm really looking for room, because this is going to be harder to use in a speed meta, for example. But it's very, very usable. This one, it's okay. It's got some speed, but attack percentage isn't as good, so we're getting a couple things here that I found that maybe they're not the best for this account, but it's just nice to be able to sort some of this stuff. On the other hand, maybe I'm building a champion that I need to get them to be as fast as possible. Or maybe I just need a ton of crit rate on a weapon and I don't care what set it's in. Well, there's this wonderful thing down here called hide set filters. So now that I have hide set filters here, now I'm looking currently at 6-star weapons that have the absolute highest crit rate. Now, to probably make this filter a little bit easier, I will turn the substat of crit rate on here, because there's no reason I would want to even see the pieces that don't have crit rate if I'm looking for high crit rate. Shouldn't change the top, however, and I can see here I've got this triple roll crit rate Zeal weapon. It's actually really nice. This could be very, very helpful on a champion I'm looking to build crit rate on, and if I don't care about the particular set, having this filter here is nice. The other thing this filter can be nice for is, say I'm trying to figure out whether or not I want to use Savage or I want to use Lethal, for example. Maybe I'll sort through here and take a look at a couple of high crit rate pieces and see where do I have more of the high crit rate pieces, or maybe where do I have more of the high speed and crit rate pieces. Because again, I can continue to refine this a little bit more. So let's see, I want to make sure I have speed on this piece as well. Well, hey, now I've only got 90 pieces, and this is now my highest crit rate with something that actually has speed on it. Here's another one that actually has speed on it that's a high crit rate as well. So I can continue to refine my search a little bit more. So maybe I'm finding a bunch of these pieces. Well, maybe I also want crit damage. Here we go. Now I've only got 29 pieces, and maybe they're going to be in a set that I really want. Maybe I don't need, maybe this 18 is all I need, so I don't need to go to this 23 here. So if I go to this 18, well, I'm going to get more crit damage, more speed, and more attack. That's a really good piece. This could be a better way to build a champion. So this is one of the ways, especially if you build a lot of champions by hand, you can really narrow down specifically what gear is doing what you want it to do. It's also a great way, again, to start cleansing pieces, because maybe you're actually not looking for speed, or maybe you're actually looking for pieces that don't have speed because you want to sell them. Well, you're probably no longer going to use the hide set filters. But if we go back here for speed, we sort the speed on to high. Now I can go over here and let's go take a look. Okay, this is the lowest speed piece in my protection set because I don't keep anything without speed and protection. On the other hand, I've mostly got stone skin protection here. So most of these do have speed, but this is a good way for me to take a look and see if there's anything that doesn't have speed that I've been lingering on my account in some way, shape, or form. And maybe it's going to be something that I can then start selling. Speed's been very important to me, so I've probably done a lot of this cleanse before, but you get the idea. These are ways that you can make it easier to find the gear you're looking for if you're gearing your champions or you're looking for speed or any other stat. Finally, one of the things that's very, very helpful to know how to use is on the accessories here, they do have the hide set filters. Now, hide set filters works differently in the accessories in that you still obviously have Shadowkin and then Demon Spawn, but now suddenly you don't have these different factories for, now you don't have these different categories for the different types of pieces. So I can see I have a pinpoint here that's right next to a feral, that's right next to a reaction ring, for example. This is helpful if I'm not looking for a specific set, or maybe I'm looking for the best of the best of the best. So again, I could go to banner. This is probably one of the more common uses you might. Prioritize speed. And now, for example, I can take a look and see, hey, these banners don't have speed. In fact, that one's pretty terrible. I'll probably end up selling that at some point in time, or maybe re-rolling it because pinpoint is definitely harder to get. Whereas these pinpoint ones actually have speed, which makes them somewhat redeemable. And if they roll speed twice, they're going to be absolutely amazing on this account. So ways I can certainly find stuff out. But maybe, for example, I'm looking more for attack total. This can be good because obviously this is attack, and then I've got triple attack hit here. It will kind of sort out how's getting the most total attack out of this, including the percentage. So this will be maybe slightly different depending on what champion you're looking for. It can be very good if you're trying to max out your attack or max out your defense, maybe max out your resistance or something like that as well, although those are a little easier because they're generally flat stats when you sort by them. With these percentage stats, this tells me that this is going to be the next highest attack piece. That's actually pretty sad. I guess I either have all these attack pieces on somebody maybe, but it certainly lets you look at what you're going to be doing when you're building these champions. So using these filters to your advantage can make managing your gear and gearing your champions significantly easier if you kind of know the filters you're looking for and know what you're trying to do. Now, there's also a surprising amount of documentation in Raid, and it's pretty easy to miss in some cases because oftentimes you're not looking for it. But say, for example, I'm looking to figure out what these artifacts do and I want to see an overview of how artifacts work. Well, if I go here to this eye, there is a very, very basic guide on gear that goes quite a bit into depth. So you're ever curious about what stats can be on any particular piece? Well, look at this here. Weapons can only have normal attack as the primary stat. So plus is regular, and then the percent is a percentage stat. And then this is the list of substats that they are capable of having. Notice that you can't put defense percent or defense on a weapon. That's a feature. So you can even get the ascension bonuses as well. So you're confused as to why you can't get like crit rate ascension on your weapon. Well, that's because it's not even an option. So you don't necessarily filter for stuff that you just can't actually do. Now, when you're doing primary stats and you start doing some of the filters, it will literally not let you select a filter if you can't have that primary stat on a weapon or an item. The secondary stats, however, do not have such a restriction. So if you, for example, say, hey, show me all of the rings that have speed substats, you just won't see anything, because you will never find a ring that has a speed substat. Only banners in the accessories can have a speed substat. Now, most of that substat filter is usually more of an issue when you're talking about the top pieces here, so the weapon, helmet, shield, and the gauntlets, chest plate, and boots. But again, you might be looking to filter because, for example, maybe you're looking for an attack ring with an attack percentage and HP percentage because you're looking for a very specific build. So that can be very nice to look for. All this for information here. They talk about the various sets. You've got the variable piece sets here. Talks about where you can find some of this stuff. This is actually very well documented, and they go into pretty good detail about gearing champions, about where you can find some of the information you're looking for. You can actually scroll further down in here. Wait for it. There we go. So you can actually see where you can get different pieces of gear, which is nice. If we scroll down a little bit further beyond all of this, which is very, very nice. Talks a little bit about the dungeons where you can get some of this gear as well. So it shows you in a more visual role where you can get some of these gear. You also have a description now where we start getting some of these special things. It talks about what these accessories do. So if you don't have them in game and you're not sure where to get them, not only can you find out what they do, but you can find a good description of each and every set down here. So here we go, crit rate set, plus 12% crit rate. It even has a little description of where it's useful. Now, to be fair, it says the plus 12 crit rate's almost universally useful. It is on a very early account. Honestly, later game accounts, you'll get enough with your substats because you'll be building specialized gear anyway that the crit rates say it's not that great. So some of these recommendations are not always the greatest, but as far as the actual what they do, very, very, very helpful. Another place they have great documentation is with the bosses. They have added this boss guide feature, which is absolutely amazing. You can certainly see some of the teams of the week, which will certainly be teams that get through this quickly, probably teams that in most cases, most people can't actually build. I'm actually kind of curious about this team with Ophidius. That seems kind of weird, but you know what? If that works, I guess. But it talks about strategy too. So you can read each of these skills, what they do. And generally, the way that these work is you will prioritize whatever the active skills are. So you see anything with a P is a passive skill. So the active skill will do the lowest active skill first, then the second lowest active skill, and then finally this top skill here, unless it says specifically how they prioritize the skills. Some bosses do make intelligent decisions. Amius, for example, will actually make intelligent decisions whether or not he wants to do his cleanse or flip, or if he wants to do an attack, depending on how many debuffs he has on him, for example. Same with some of the Hydra teams as well. But for the most part, especially the classic bosses, they will generally do their skills in order based off of whichever the highest skill is available first and the cooldowns. But there's all kinds of useful information here. Yes, this is a wall of text, so it's probably not the easiest to read, but there's then a description here that walks you through the basics of creating a team, the basics of what type of strategy you might want. Now, are these going to be perfectly accurate? Probably not. You're probably better off checking YouTube channels out, like mine, for example, and, see if we can help you with some of this stuff, because we've probably broken it down in a much easier, more digestible way. But this is still very good for people that aren't watching YouTube, very good for people that just kind of like to study this stuff on their own as well. So there's a lot of useful information laying around the game. Look for these little eyes. Look for things like this boss guide right here. You can get all kinds of useful information. If you just kind of look and click some of the stages and some of the buttons, you'd be surprised what you can learn about the game of Raid from Raid itself. Finally, I want to talk about the multi-battle setting. This is something that some people use and some people don't. If you're on a phone, you probably use multi-battles because it's just easier. If you're not on a phone, you might be using RSL Helper. You might not be. It's fine if you use it either way, but it is nice to know how to use multi-battles, especially because occasionally RSL Helper is down, and there's some things the multi-battle system actually does just really well overall. Now, first of all, if you don't check this box here, the multi-battle will basically end once everyone hits max level. So if you've ever had trouble with your multi-battles constantly ending and you're not sure what's going on, it's probably because you haven't checked this boss here. It's probably because you haven't checked this box here. Now, this is great for campaign because in campaign, you're generally leveling people up. So if you're using the multiple battles in campaign, you probably don't want that checked. On the other hand, if you're farming spider or dungeons, something like that, well, maybe you do actually want to keep on running once all your champions are maxed, because there's a good chance they might be maxed already. So you definitely are going to want to check that box then. There is a continue multi-battle even if you lose a battle. One of the things I actually like about the way these work is if you are losing multi-battles, they will stop if you have this checked. Unless you have this checked, I should say. So one of the things I like about this box is if you have this checked, you will continue to battle, but by default, it's not checked. So if you are not a 100% run and you don't know you're a 100% run, well, running it in multi-battles is one of the ways to just kind of let it go in the background, do something else, and it will stop when you lose. Very, very helpful for figuring out whether or not something is 100%. Probably not necessarily the best for things that you know might be 97 or 98%, especially if you're trying to run them overnight, but it's good for testing things out. And in some cases, you don't care. Like, for example, if you're doing Doom Tower, you don't care if your Doom Tower boss is 70% effective and you know it, well, you want it to continue even if you lose because you want it to try every time it possibly can, and you'll just keep on running the multi-battles afterwards. Use gems to automatically restore energy. This is something I honestly wish they would fix, and I kind of get why they haven't, but it's definitely kind of frustrating. There's no way for it to use refills from your inbox in multi-battles. Very unfortunate. So if you're going to be using those refills, you may want to front load them, which I know is not the most efficient thing to do, but if you front load them, then you don't need to check this box and you know exactly how much energy you're going to run. So that does give you more control. Unfortunately, this is an all or nothing button. So you either check this and use as much gems as you want to until you run out of gems, or it stops for some other reason, or you uncheck this and you load up all the energy you want to run and you only run exactly that much energy before these stop. Mildly frustrating. I think that they can certainly improve this a little bit. So maybe this is something I should call Polarium out for, as they are fixing these multi-battles, let you use the automatic refills. I at least understand why it doesn't let you use the flat energy numbers, because it doesn't know which is the one that you want to use next. You could have 2,000 energy from about something you purchased. You could have 2,000 energy from, say, getting your CVC personal rewards and not claiming them right away. Or you might have, 100 energy from a code that you got somewhere. And maybe you want to use the 100 energy from the code and not the 2,000 energy from something else. So those I totally understand. But the fact that it cannot use energy refills before it starts using gems to restore your energy is one of the weirder things that I think Raid has done. It's very unfortunate. Finally, because we have super raids in so many areas, this is a place where you can check super raids. And it's actually nice that it's in the multi-battle settings, because if I go here and check super raids and go back to multi-battles, it does automatically check this. But it's very, very annoying if I get all this stuff set up and then realize I didn't have super raids, have to go out, hit super raids, may have to change this stuff again. Very annoying. There are also the gear selling filters, which are very, very nice if you're trying to just get rid of some of the basics. Now, they're not super amazing here. Like, curing is the only set I have here. So basically, if I have a checkbox, it's keeping it. And I'm telling it, I don't want you to keep any of the curing you're getting. But I could, for example, get more granular, and I would certainly get more granular if I was looking at chests, for example, where I might, in fact, I can actually see the chest stuff here. So if I was trying to just get rid of the flat stats, well, here, now I'm going to keep any non-flat stat chests, and if I want to, I can even limit it to only should keep 6-star flat stat chests that have speed on them, for example. I could get rid of the flat stats on the substats as keepable stats. But if it has anything that hits any of these checkboxes right here, it will keep them. Nice and easy. Now, I don't want to keep anything because this is campaign. I don't want anything from campaign where my in-game gear. So this is what I will do all, and you can unselect this stuff, but you can set this to be somewhat granular. Just realize that it's not going to make very smart decisions. It isn't all or nothing. So you're better off casting a broader net and then doing some manual trimming a little bit later. Now, one of the other things that's actually really cool about the multi-battle settings, which I think is very user-friendly, is you can put a queue up. So if you're doing some champion training in campaign and you want to kind of, use your gems and you want to run a bunch of it, or you've got a bunch of energy saved up and you just have dumped it in your account, you can go to the edit queue and I can go select other champions. So if I were to select, let's just I'll take these 3 champions here because I can confirm. I now have 3 champions in the queue, and so it will level up the champions that I currently have out there in the first place, and then it will put those champions in as I level champions up. Do be aware of the order it does these things in, because for example, I like to generally level champions up all the same rank, all the same level, and not have them level up in weird ways. So I'll make sure that I have 3 ready to go on one level and they're all going to finish at the same time. Then I'll have another 3, so 1, 2, and 3, and then 4, 5, and 6 could certainly be, a different star, and so they might go for these 3 afterwards. What I want to avoid is a situation where I've got a 1 star that it needs to finish leveling up, and then another 2 star that it's already finished leveling up, and then a 3 star, because what can happen if you're not careful is you can have all but one of your champions are maxed and you're still running campaign till you max out 1 champion and you're losing out on some of the experience you could have afterwards. So generally you want to try to keep the numbers as accurate as possible when you can with this. If you know you're not going to hit the energy limit before you get all these champions, then maybe you just throw a bunch in here randomly and just prioritize which ones you want first. But you can set this in order and, you can sort by rank and sort pretty well. It already filters out anybody who is max, which is great. And by default, I think it only shows people that are in your active roster, so it doesn't show anybody in either of the vaults. So you can certainly control who you're going to be working with through that. Finally, you have background multi-battles. Now I hit the background multi-battles, and once I selected that, it's going to run that multi-battle until it's done. Once it's done, which should be pretty quick, it'll have me come back here and it just finished one of those. So I want to stop background multi-battles and I want to stop that. So that will stop the last multi-battle, and once it's done, I'll be finished. That's actually one of the things you do want to make sure you do. You want to set the limit on the number of multi-battles you run if you can. Now that these are done, I can see the results here. Pretty much similar to the other endgame stuff. I can see all the champions I had queued up, as I didn't actually get through these queued. These didn't gain any extra experience. These are the rewards that I won that I kept in addition to the silver I got, so I probably sold some stuff, which is fine. It does not show you what you sold. And unfortunately, from this multi-battle, I cannot sell these rewards directly either, like I can from a post-campaign or if I just run this multi-battle directly. But it exists. It's not too bad. It's better than nothing. But again, do make sure you use this setting battle too. So if I want to run just 2 of these things, I can run 2 of them. And you can type a number in here and set this to what you need, maximum of however many you happen to actually have at the moment. And again, if you have any questions, there's the help meter right for this. You can read how to use your multi-battles, what happens with the multi-battles, and how to manage them. So those are 3 pretty interesting features in Raid that I think people tend to overlook, or sometimes they just don't know about them because they're not looking for them, or maybe they're new to the genre and are not thinking about how they might want to use them. The filters can be powerful. The documentation can be great for people like me who are kind of looking for interesting use cases of champions or trying to learn something to create a video. They can be helpful for people that are not watching videos. There's all kinds of cool ways to interact with this game, manage what you're doing in this game, and overall just have a great Raid experience. So hopefully you found out something new that might help you in your Raid journey. And again, check out my link down below. I really would appreciate it. Help support me in this channel. You guys are absolutely amazing. Let me know if you learned anything new, or let me know if there's any features that you have questions on, and maybe I'll do another video covering some of your favorite features in Raid. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. You guys are absolutely amazing. Have a wonderful day, and until the next video, I'm Bront CatHerder.